Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about English phrases that start with out of. And if you're wondering, are there enough of these English phrases, Bob, for a complete English lesson? Well, I have 26 of them. Out of date, out of money, out of shape, out of order, out of practice, out of place, out of line, out of control, out of breath. There are a lot of them, and I will teach all of them to you this morning. These are phrases that we use quite regularly in the English language. They are very, very common. You might think that I was, trying really hard to put together a lesson with this many phrases, but it was actually quite easy. I thought of over 20 of them myself. And then, of course, I use AI to kind of fill out a few more, and it gave me a few more like out of character. That's a good one. So, anyways, welcome to this English lesson about English phrases that start with the words out of. I think you'll enjoy it, and I think you'll learn some new phrases you could use in a future English conversation. Out of focus. So this is deliberately blurry. When something is out of focus, it's not clear or sharp, usually because a camera or your eyes are not focused properly. So if I do this, my hand will be blurry, and then now it is in focus. I will be, oh, that was fast. I was hoping I would be out of focus for a bit longer. Out of focus and now in focus. So when you aren't wearing your glasses, if you're someone who wears glasses, things will be out of focus. They will be blurry. When you turn if you have a camera where you can turn the focus ring on the lens, you can make the image out of focus. Not clear or sharp, usually because a camera or your eyes are not focused properly. Out of breath. When I finish walking at a brisk pace, I'm sometimes a little bit out of breath. But if I run, when I stop running, I am very much out of breath. So this means that I am breathing hard because you have been exercising or working hard. The other day, I had to lift and carry some very heavy things on the farm. And when I was done, I was a little bit out of breath. It's not a nice feeling, but if you don't know what this feels like, stand up and go run for 20 seconds as fast as you can outside, and then you will definitely be out of breath. You will be breathing hard because you have been exercising or working hard. Out of shape. So this is when you are not physically fit or in good condition. At the end of the summer, I'm usually in shape because I work on the farm, I walk more, and I exercise more. At the end of the winter, and I would actually say right now, just a little bit, I'm a little bit out of shape. So when you are out of shape, you are a little bit overweight or a lot overweight. When you exercise, if you're out of shape, you will probably be out of breath. So you simply aren't healthy. You've been eating too much and you've been sitting around too much, and now you are out of shape. Out of order, not working properly or broken. Sometimes the photocopier at school will have this sign on it. It will say out of order, awaiting repair. And usually the repair person comes the same day at our school, which is very, very nice. But this is not the sign that you want to see on the photocopier when you really need to make some copies. So again, if something is out of order, it's not working properly or it is broken. And I want to tell you this though, we use this for photocopiers or elevators, things that we share publicly. But if your car is broken, you just say your car is broken down or your car is broken. We don't use the phrase out of order for our personal things for some reason. Like the vending machine can be out of order and you can't buy a chocolate bar or a can of pop. The elevator, the photocopier. I really think we only use this phrase for things we share, but you wouldn't use it for your car. Out of stock, not available because the store has sold all of that item. This is disappointing. When you go to a store because something is on sale, sometimes you'll get there and they'll say sold out or out of stock. Sorry, these products are out of stock. We no longer have them. If you're lucky, they'll give you a rain check. A rain check is a piece of paper or something they'll give you digitally on an app that allows you to buy that item at the sale price later. But it doesn't just have to be sale items. Sometimes normal things are also out of stock. You go to buy something and they don't have it, it's out of stock. Out of luck. When you're out of luck, you are unlikely to succeed or unable to get what you wanted. So we have in this picture a very sad person because apparently they couldn't buy tickets online for this event. They came to the ticket booth and it says sold out. So they're out of luck. There are no more tickets to buy. They're out of luck. They were unable to get what they wanted. Jen and a few of my kids wanted to go to the Ed Sheeran concert, but I told them, you're out of luck. I'm not buying tickets that are that expensive. So it doesn't just have to do with tickets. Let's say there was something on sale, or let's say someone was selling a car for a really good amount of money, and you called them and said, hey, I'm interested in the car. They might say, hey, you're out of luck. I just sold it to someone else. So out of luck, unlikely to succeed or unable to get what you wanted. Out of control, unable to be managed or stopped. Now you can be driving a car and suddenly you hit ice and then your car is out of control and you can't go in the direction that you want. Sometimes when people get very emotional or upset, we say, oh, they're out of control. He's out of control. Calm him down. That's why at bars they have bouncers, so that if a customer starts to get out of control, starts to do things they're not supposed to, they can kick them out. So when you are out of control or when something is out of control, you are unable to be managed or stopped, or that thing is unable to be managed or stopped. Out of time, having no time left to finish something. A couple of these phrases have to do with that. I'll talk about out of money later. We sometimes use the out of phrase to indicate that we no longer have something. So you can be out of milk, you can be out of money, you can be out of time. So we are not out of time for this live stream. I have lots of time to do this English lesson today. So we are not out of time. But let's say you're writing a test and the teacher says you have 2 hours to write the test. At 1 hour and 59 minutes in, you're almost out of time. And then when 2 hours has passed, you will be out of time. Out of practice. Not as skilled as before because you have not done something recently. And you could tell this image is AI generated because apparently he's already hit the ball and the tee and he hasn't even swung yet. He's winding up to swing. He's really out of practice. But let's say there's something you enjoy doing. I enjoy archery and I just started again a month ago, but I'm out of practice. I'm having trouble getting the arrows to hit the target. Maybe you really enjoy playing volleyball, but you haven't played for a few years. And if someone says, hey, do you want to play volleyball with us tonight? You might say, well, I'm out of practice. It's been a while. But yes, I will come out. So when you are out of practice, you're not as skilled as before because you have not done something you have not done something recently. I was going to change the definition there. Out of touch, no longer informed about what is happening or no longer in contact with someone. So there's two meanings here. If you went to a business and they had this sign in the entranceway, like just a grocery store or something, you would say they're out of touch. Like the pandemic is over. You don't need to wear a mask anymore at the grocery store. So I would say they are out of touch. You can also use it the second way where I can say, yeah, I've been out of touch. I haven't talked to my brother for 6 months. I should really call him because we've been out of touch for too long. So again, listen to how I'm saying these, out of touch. But when I say it quickly, I say out of touch. Same with some of the earlier phrases. Out of focus, out of focus. Out of order, out of order. So you sometimes can speed it up. Out of order, out of order. With that one, I do hit the F because order starts with a vowel. Did you hear that? Out of stock, out of order. Out of stock, out of order. Yep. If you have a vowel, sometimes I learn things as I'm teaching them. Out of date. So I had a family member who had a job And they were always complaining about the computer that they had to use at work because it was out of date. I didn't realize that right away until they started talking about Windows 95 or Windows 98, I think they had. And I was like, what? Is that computer out of date? So when something is out of date, it is old and no longer current or useful. So if your computer looks like this, it's probably out of date. It's probably time to get a new computer. It even has a CD-ROM drive or a DVD player down there. And it takes 3.5-inch floppy disks. Wow. And that's probably like a 13 or 14-inch monitor. It's not even a flat screen. So out of date, old, and no longer current or useful. Out of money, having no money left to spend. So this is a common widespread use of the out of structure. When you no longer have something, you can be out of milk, you can be out of money, you can be out of time, you can be out of laundry detergent, you can be out of cups because you haven't done the dishes. So when you no longer have something, like when it's something you normally have and it has run out, there's another phrase. You could use the out of to describe that situation. So if you're out of money, you're having no money left to spend. Out of time, you have no time left. Out of energy. So this is similar as well. Feeling very tired and without strength. I went to graduation on Wednesday night. That was the last thing I had to do for this school year. And then yesterday morning, even though I slept in, I was out of energy. I was exhausted. I was feeling very tired and had no strength. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I had strength, but I was definitely feeling very tired. So when you are out of energy, this usually happens at the end of a long day or at the end of the week when you come home on Friday. You might say to someone, oh, I'm just out of energy. I worked so hard this week. I need to have a nap. Out of line or out of line. Behaving in a way that is rude, inappropriate, or unacceptable. When kids throw things at other kids in a classroom, they are out of line. They are breaking the rules. They are doing something that they're not supposed to. Even in a formal meeting, maybe there's a meeting and when you want to speak, you need to raise your hand in order to go to the microphone. And if you just walk up and start talking, that would be out of line. That's not the proper order or the proper way to do things. So out of line, behaving in a way that is rude, inappropriate, or unacceptable. Sometimes in the chat, people get out of line and then I have to put them in a time out. Out of place, not belonging or seeming unusual in a particular situation. So yes, I did use AI to generate some of the images. I wanted an image of a person wearing a t-shirt and jeans because here they're underdressed because they're in a room with all people wearing suits and they probably feel out of place. When you are out of place, you don't feel like you belong in that situation. So if you go to a place like this and you wear a t-shirt and jeans, it's going to be something where you're not belonging or seeming and you're seeming unusual in a particular situation. This is my biggest fear in life when I have to go somewhere where I don't normally go. What do I wear? It's very, very tricky sometimes to know what to wear because I don't want to feel out of place. I don't want to be the person who looks different. Out of work, without a job and looking for work. This has never happened. No, this kind of did happen to me once. There was one point in my life where I was out of work. It was a weird situation. I should make a video about it. We're talking like 30 years ago, a long time ago. I was out of work. So I had no job and I was looking for a job. This happens in life. Sometimes when university students come home, they want a job for the summer and they can't find one and they're out of work. And you really think they should get a job. That's usually what parents think. But anyways, another one similar to out of time, out of energy. This person no longer has work to do. So they're out of work, which means they need to find a job. Out of business, permanently closed and no longer operating. Now, the most common time we see this phrase is when you see this sign. And this is something that happens before a store goes out of business. They will often have a going out of business sale. So if there's a store and they are going to close the store, the person is no longer going to run the store. They might say to people, we're going out of business next month, but we're going to have a going out of business sale. We're going to sell everything for cheaper so that the store is empty when we eventually close it. So out of business means permanently closed and no longer operating. Is that store still on Main Street? No, they went out of business. They're no longer there. Or let's go to Joe's restaurant. Oh, didn't you hear? They're out of business. They went out of business. We can't go there anymore. Out of bounds. This should be a familiar one to people. Outside the area of play. So in some sports, if the ball goes out of bounds, there will be a whistle. In some sports, if a player with the ball steps out of bounds, like basketball, there will be a whistle. But basically, many sports have lines. And if you step across the line, or if the ball in that game goes past the line, depending on the sport, it might be out of bounds. So soccer is a good one, or football, basketball, American football, all have rules around something being out of bounds. We sometimes use this to talk about people a little bit too in relationships. Like if your friend is dating someone, then that person's out of bounds for you because your friend is already dating that person. You're not going to ask them out because they're out of bounds. So I think I'm using that right, but out of bounds, normally used to talk about outside the area of play. Off limits. I think that's the word I'm looking for. That person would be off limits. Sorry. Little correction there. I don't know, maybe out of bounds works, but definitely off limits. Out of sight. Not able to be seen. So this is Shaq. I don't know if you know who Shaq is. And Shaq is hiding behind this tree. So this is kind of a funny picture for this example because we can obviously see him. Shaq is a very big person, very tall, amazing basketball player when he was playing basketball. But here we have someone who is trying to be out of sight, basically trying to hide. When something is out of sight or someone is out of sight, they are not able to be seen. Out of reach or out of reach, too far away to be touched or obtained. So you can see that this lady has a lot of things on the top shelf and they are out of reach. So she cannot reach them. But if you look, there is a little ladder there. She should use the ladder and then she would be able to reach them. But when something is out of reach, it's too far away to be touched or obtained. One of the places you see this phrase a lot is on things that little children shouldn't be able to grab. It'll say keep out of reach of children or store out of reach of children, which means you should put it on a shelf really high so that they cannot reach it or grab it. Out of danger. No longer in a situation where you might be harmed. So you can see in this photo that this lady is now out of danger because the firefighter has saved her from the burning house. This is not a real picture. This is an AI picture. It was really hard to find a picture of someone who was out of danger. I could find lots of pictures of people in danger, but it was hard. So I had AI generate one. So she was in a house. The house was on fire, but now the firefighter has carried her out and she is now out of danger, no longer in a situation where she might be harmed. Stay out of trouble. So this is a full sentence because the phrase out of trouble is almost always used by parents when their teenage kids or kids leave to go somewhere. They will say, stay out of trouble. And it's a phrase used to tell people to behave and to not do anything that could lead to problems. If my son was going camping with some friends this weekend, I would say, have fun, stay out of trouble. What I mean by that is don't do anything illegal. Don't do anything dumb, like what teenagers do sometimes. I don't want a phone call in the middle of the night from the cops. Stay out of trouble. So again, a phrase meaning used to tell people to behave and to not do anything that could lead to problems. out of nowhere. So earlier, I think we mentioned the phrase out of the blue, not in the lesson, but in a question. This is similar, appearing or happening suddenly and unexpectedly. So in this situation, it looks like someone on a bike was hit by a car. The person driving the car might say, I don't know what happened. She just came out of nowhere. A person on a bike came out of nowhere and I hit them. Or the person on the bike might say the same. They might say, I was just biking along and this car came out of nowhere and just hit me and knocked me over. So out of nowhere, appearing or happening suddenly and unexpectedly. That's a hard word to say, by the way, unexpectedly. Out of context. So this is a fun one, and I have to explain how this works. It's when something is separated from the original situation and making the meaning different, okay? So let's say in a live stream, I said this, okay? So we're having a live stream and I say to someone, you know what? You know what my friend said? My friend said, Canada has no chance of winning. And I think that's wrong. I think Canada will win. If you went and took the clip where I say Canada has no chance of winning, and you took that and put it online, you would be out, that would be out of context because you don't have the first part of the sentence where I say my friend said, and you don't have the last part where I say my friend is wrong. So again, please don't do this. But if I said this, you know what someone said to me? They said Canada has no chance of winning. And I think that's ridiculous. Canada will win. You could go and take that sentence out of context. Canada has no chance of winning. And you can say, Bob the Canadian, he doesn't think Canada will win. This happens a lot on the internet. Not to me, thankfully, but many times on the news or on the internet, people will take something out of context, and it must be frustrating from the person who said more than what gets put online. And then out of character, not typical of how someone usually behaves. So many of you have been around for a very long time watching my videos, and you know this is not my normal mood. I'm not often angry online. Sometimes in real life, I do get angry, but it would be out of character for me to be angry during a live stream. It would not be typical of how I usually behave. So if you saw me online saying, Canada has no chance of winning, I can't even make that face. It's kind of, I can't make the face anymore. That would be out of character. My normal character, if I have a good night's sleep, and if I'm eating healthy, and if I'm exercising regularly, my normal character is to be fairly positive. I'm usually in a pretty good mood. I'm usually happy, but it would be out of character for me to behave in an angry way. By the way, during this past 12 months, as I've had some weird health problems, there's been times where I've been out of character in real life. It's just because I was out of energy and exhausted and tired. Out of season, not available or not normally grown, sold, or used at that time of year. So here's the best example I can give. Strawberries are available in Canada year-round, but fresh local Canadian strawberries are only available at the end of May and in June. So if you buy strawberries in January in Canada, we say they are out of season, and you're buying strawberries from California or from the southern United States because they're out of season here in January. They're in season in June, but they're out of season in January. By the way, fresh local strawberries always taste better than strawberries that you buy in January. I appreciate it that you can buy strawberries in January, but there's something really yummy about fresh local strawberries. So when strawberries are out of season, I usually don't buy them. So again, out of season, not available, or not normally grown, sold, or used at that time of year.